Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to CAVS Q&A, the show where I take CAVS questions and answer them here in video format. A lot of things to get into, so let's just jump into it. First question comes from Jared Kent, and Jared Kent has this to say. How concerned are you about Harden's thumb? Looks like to me it's affecting his handling a little bit. I think it's definitely something to monitor over the next few weeks, especially if you're the Cavs, to see just like how well he's managing, because you don't want James Harden to feel like he's sacrificing to play through that thumb and then possibly hurting himself when it matters the most in the playoffs. That being said, everybody on the team is pretty aligned. Like, they've said it outwardly that the playoffs are the main goal and what they do in the playoffs are going to be what's most important. You've heard this from James Harden himself, Donovan Mitchell, and the team, and even Kenny Atkinson has alluded to this as well. Not to say that they don't care about the regular season, but if they felt like James's thumb would be better served in the postseason by going a different route, I think they would have taken that route. I think they're taking the route with the playoffs, with the long term for this season in mind. And I think that's kind of how they're going to handle it. And I think this is going to be, I think they think he's going to be fine by the playoffs, and this isn't going to be something that's going to pop up as a big deal. Or at least that's the hope. You know, we'll see what actually happens. Okay, now with the next question says, hey, Q, been watching for years. Love the videos, man. I think the current playoff picture with us at 4 means we'll see the Pistons, and I'm confident we can get by them. This means in the Eastern Conference Finals, we'll probably play the Knicks or the Celtics. Which of those two would you rather play in the series? I feel like the Knicks would be the harder team to play unless Evan can average 20 in that series. With New York, it starts down low, in my opinion. I think Boston is clearly the worst matchup for the Cavaliers. I think Boston is clearly the worst matchup for the Cavaliers. The reason I think that's the case is if you look at how the Cavs struggle, it's exactly with what Boston does, right? The rebounding and the three-point shooting, right? Like, that shit hurts the Cavs. If you look at how the Pacers beat us, what the Pacers ended up doing was emulating a lot of what Boston did the year prior, right? Running us off the floor, keeping us in transition, taking advantage of the size, getting rebounds, and just jacking up threes, right? And the Pacers were able to hit those threes at like a 45% clip. I think when we played Boston, they were smacking threes at a ridiculous clip too. And that's the real key to beat the Cavs. We know that Boston can play like that. That's the Boston style. New York tries to play like Boston, but they're not as successful. And the Knicks aren't capable. I mean, not the Knicks. The Pacers aren't capable of playing like Boston at all, which means that's why we're not that worried about the Pistons, right? So I would say Boston is probably the most dangerous team, and the Knicks are second. I think the Knicks feel the most dangerous to a lot of Cavs fans because we remember 2023. But both the Cavs and the Knicks have changed a ton since 2023. The Knicks don't have 3 bigs they can throw at us like they had in 2023. Remember, they had Julius Randle, Hartenstein, and Mitchell Robinson, right? Mitchell Robinson was just a bonus on top. Now Mitchell is their entire presence on the interior. And if you look at those lineups that the Pistons are playing out there, a lot of them are actually quite small, right? Or they have Cat at the 5. And we know that Cat's not going to out-rebound us to death. That's just not Cat's game. So I think Boston is probably the team you fear the most. We'll see how they play with Jason Tatum coming back. I think that's going to be an interesting thing for them to manage over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, New York, I don't think it's the same threat to Cleveland that they were in 2023, just because they don't have the bigs that they can play out there. Like, Mitchell Robinson did his thing against us. I think he got like 10 and 13 in 20 minutes, but he only played 20 minutes. Like, there's a limit on how much you can really play Mitchell Robinson, especially when he can't hit foul shots. He's shooting at like 36%. So his minutes are just going to be limited. And if he can't play 35, 40 minutes, then he's not going to have a big enough impact to eliminate the Cavaliers. And if you look at the Knicks without Mitchell Robinson, this is a team that's very beatable for the Cavaliers. You know, they have answers for a lot of the questions that the Knicks pose. Like a lot of that Jalen Brunson post stuff, you're not really going to be able to do with James Harden on the floor because James is an excellent post defender, right? And he's a big guard defending Jalen, who's a little undersized compared to James Harden especially. So Boston's the main one, right? Because they can just put up so many threes and make so many threes that just poses an issue. And if you look at the Cavs, I think Tony Pesta brought this up in our video that we did together. Make sure you guys go check that out. But like a lot of what kills the Cavs is like, you know, somebody rotates to help out in the paint, and then that rotation opens up a corner three, and then bam, right? If you can make those corner threes consistently and you can offensive rebound, you can break the Cavs. If you can't do both of those things, then it's going to be pretty hard to break this team. So, you know, that's kind of how I look at it, and Boston's the best at doing those things. But thank you for that question. Okay, now the next question comes from TK in New York. If the Cavs can only afford to pay to bring back one next season, who would you prefer gets the new contract, Dean Wade or Keon Ellis? I hope they can afford both, of course. There's not a doubt in my mind it would be Keon Ellis. I mean, the Dean Wade thing, and I don't want to bury him too much because he's already somebody who gets junked on a lot by the fan base. The problem with Dean Wade, he's an excellent defender, and he's the only true wing that we have on the roster, but he has fallen away too much in playoff time for me to ever really take him seriously in that role. Maybe he changes my mind in the playoff, but barring that, it's definitely Keon Ellis who's more useful. Ariel says this. Sorry, I don't know if it's Ariel or Ariel. You know, sometimes some people pronounce it differently. Appreciate the comment. Hey Q, who do you trust more in the playoffs, Dean or Jalen Tyson? I mean, Dean Wade, we know we're not going to get nothing in the playoffs with Dean Wade. The question is, like, are we going to get the same Jalen Tyson that we've gotten before? I think he will at least try. Like, my issue with Dean is sometimes it don't feel like Dean tries. And I'm not saying, like, he doesn't give effort. What I'm saying is, like, I think Dean is afraid to make an impact on the game in a negative direction, so he doesn't take shots he should be taking. He doesn't go for dunks he should be taking. You know, he just kind of defaults to being neutral or passive, whereas Jalen Tyson is going to try to impact the game. Sometimes he's going to make shots, sometimes he's not, but I at least trust Jalen Tyson to play his game the way he plays in the regular season, the exact same way, versus Dean, who I think he overcorrects and doesn't want to be the reason the team loses. I think that fear is real prevalent in his game. And I think that has a very, very clear effect on his minutes being productive in the playoffs. Doctor says this. Hey Q, the last win over the Pacers. I'm getting my words jumbled today. The Pistons shows me we can trust this bench to be that extra toughness we've been lacking the past few years. Who do you feel gives us the most problems out the teams in the playoffs as the current standings show? I kind of talked about this earlier. It's definitely Boston. But what I wanted to focus on in your question is the kind of toughness off the bench. And that makes me go to another point, right? So many people are worried about the Knicks, I think, based off that 2023 series, but this rotation is just different than 2023, right? We got Keon Ellis now, Dennis Schroeder, Sam Merrill shooting off the bench, Jalen Tyson. It's a completely different bench. I mean, like, Thomas Bryant can help you out in minutes against the Pistons, especially, right, where they have all those bigs and they're going to try to play that game with you. You can use some good Thomas Bryant minutes, who he got minutes last year in select parts of the playoffs last year. So, you know, for the Pacers who ended up going to the NBA Finals. So, yeah, I think the bench and the rotation, it's much different than last year. It's very different from 2023. And I think both teams have changed. I think the Knicks have tried to be more like Boston since 2023. So they've gotten lighter and they started to run more. But I don't think they've gotten better because I think Cat makes them better than Julius Randle. But because they got rid of Julius Randle for Cat, it really changes the dynamic of that team and it makes it so like I'm not as worried about the bully ball stuff, that really hurt the Cavs in 2023, especially now that we do have a playable big off the bench, right? Like not Thomas Robinson, but we could play our third big off the bench. We can play Evan Mobley, who's gotten stronger. I think Jarrett Allen has gotten stronger. And it's like, yeah, Mitchell Robinson's going to out-rebound us for the minutes that he's on the court, but I can live with that, if that's the only thing that they're doing. I think the big opportunity for the Knicks is like a big Cat series, right? Like, will Cat have a huge series against us? That's the one thing that remains an X factor, but that's kind of been Cat's whole thing his whole career. Like, will he be the guy that he can be sometimes? But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the Cavs' current spot in the playoffs. But want to thank you guys for asking these questions. You guys have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.